Hi, everyone. So today we are going to be looking at, you guys we had a post earlier in the week asking what we were going to look at. And the thing that we're going to look at today is speaking expressions for the CAE exam. These would also be useful for first certificate too, if you're doing first certificate. So I'm going to give you today 6 expressions that you can use in the speaking exam. Number 1 is an expression that you can use in part 3 or part 4 of the speaking exam. So when you have to talk to your partner, okay? And this expression is to get the ball rolling. Okay, to get the ball rolling. Actually, let me write it so you guys can see. To get the ball rolling. And this means to start, to begin. So in your speaking exam, instead of saying, shall I start? Do you mind if I start? You can say, shall I get the ball rolling? Or let's get the ball rolling. Let's get the ball rolling. Okay, that means like let's begin. So that's a nice one you can use in part 3 or part 4 when you have to talk to each other. Okay. Number 2 is another expression that's very useful for part 3 of the speaking exam. Okay, and this expression is to be torn between 2 things. Yeah. To be torn between 2 things. This means when you can't decide between 2 things, you're not sure which is the best. So in part 3, this is the one where you have the like spider diagram here. Yeah. And you have different options. So the examiner asks you to come to a conclusion. The examiner asks you, so which of these things do you think is the most important? And you can say, well, that's a difficult question. I'm torn between A and C. I can't decide between A and C. But if I had to choose one, I would choose A. So, wow, that's a difficult question. I'm torn between A and C, but if I had to choose one, I think I'd go for A. Yeah. So really nice expression that you can use, and you can use it in every single speaking exam. Doesn't matter what the topic is. Yeah. So very, very flexible one to use. To be torn between something and something else. Oops. I don't want to delete that. I want to delete this. Next expression. The next expression is for the picture task. Okay. So this expression you can use to kind of say what I think is interesting about this picture is, okay, so another way to say what I think is interesting about this picture is, and I've also seen this expression in use of English a few times as well. Okay, it is what strikes me as plus adjective. What strikes me as interesting, what strikes me as unusual, what strikes me as I don't know, what strikes me as disappointing, what strikes me as plus adjective. Okay. And this is what I see as, what I think as interesting. So, for example, if I have picture 1 here and picture 2 here, and there's a fantastically drawn guy in this picture, okay, and he's sad, okay. So I could say, well, what strikes me as interesting in the first picture is that the guy is with surrounded by all his family, but he's really sad. Yeah. So like what I think is interesting about the picture is that he's the guy surrounded by his family, yet he's feeling a bit sad. It's maybe not what I expected. Yeah. What strikes me as interesting about the second picture is that the boy is bungee jumping and he appears to be loving it. He's not scared at all. Yeah. So what strikes me as plus adjective is a nice one. Rather than saying in the first picture I can see a man who is do 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 do. Yeah. What strikes me as interesting. Okay. Hey. Next one. Number 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5. Let me get rid of my man. There we go. The next one. This is a different way to say, yes, I agree. Okay. You can say, we are on the same page. Yeah. Which means, yep, I agree with you. Yeah. So we would use it in exactly the same way as we would say, yes, I agree. Yeah. So I think everybody should recycle more to save the planet. Like, yep, we're on the same page there. I totally agree. Yeah. Yep, we're on the same page. I'd also like to add blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So we can use this for part 3 and part 4 when we're working with our partner, rather than just saying, I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree all the time. Yeah. Another one that we can use in this part of the exam, so part 3 or part 4, is this one here. You've hit the nail on the head. Okay. So this one we use when we want to say that what our partner says was like exactly right, was the like key to the problem. Yeah. So if we want to solve the problem of global warming, I could say, well, in my opinion, what we have to do is all work together internationally rather than focusing on our own countries. I could say, Javier, you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what we should do. Yeah, that's the key thing. That's the main issue. So to hit the nail on the head, to get the key point, the key issue to be exactly right. Yeah. So those are our 6 expressions, and really useful because you can use them to talk about absolutely anything. So you can throw them into any speaking exam. I'm going to give you one more bonus one that I use all the time. And this one would mostly be used for part 4. You could maybe use it in part 1, but mostly in part 4 when they're asking you more complex questions. Okay. So if they ask you a question that you're like, I have no idea, like, oof, that's a difficult one to think about. Like, I couldn't answer that in my own language. Yeah. So something you could say is, which sounds very natural, something like, oof, to be honest, I wouldn't know how to answer that in Spanish or whatever language, let alone in English. But off the top of my head, so to give you an answer spontaneously without having thought about it before, I guess I'd say that. So if someone asks me, for example, Cheryl, how can we solve how can we solve the financial crisis? Oof. Well, to be honest, I don't know how to answer that in English, let alone in Spanish. But off the top of my head, I guess I'd say that I don't actually know how I would solve this. I guess I'd say that we need to get a new government, and that will solve the problem. Doesn't actually matter what your opinion is or what you say at the end. They just want to hear your language. They don't really care what your opinion is, okay? But that kind of thing is a nice expression we could use. So to be honest, yeah, let alone, or off the top of my head. These are nice expressions that you can use to give yourself time to think and use very natural kind of native speaker language, okay? So those are your 6+, well, this is like a 3-in-1 expressions that you can use in every single speaking exam. Okay, so the thing to do now is to go out and try them. Yeah, so if you go to Google and type in CAE speaking exam, go to Google Images, yeah, you're going to get loads of CAE speaking exams. So the picture tasks, the part 3s, part 4s. If you want to be specific, you can say CAE speaking part 2 or CAE speaking photos. Go to Google Images, you'll get loads of them to practice with, okay? So try and use those phrases with a friend or by yourself. The more you use them, the more comfortable you will get with them, okay? So that is everything for today. If you check in on Instagram through the week, I'll be posting more speaking tasks and more use of English tasks, and then I will see you again here for our next training video, okay? So that is it from me. Take care, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.